everyone. Welcome back to CI Diaries. I'm Carrie Toth.
And I'm Kristy Placido. And today we're actually going to be talking to you about planning. And we got the idea for this episode from one of our listeners.
I got a message asking how I use my Erin Condren planner because I'm always so excited in the fall to get my Erin Condren planner. And I do my planning on paper. And as Kristy and I were talking about this as a possible topic, we discovered that in most ways we do so much alike, but our planning were very different.
Yeah. So I actually have not used a paper planner in 10 years, maybe. My district actually made the move a few years back to go to a subscription service called planbook.com, and we were all required to have our plans in planbook.com. So that was kind of rigid, and everybody's plans kind of had the same look. And I never loved it because I like to do my own thing. I don't like to be told what I have to do and what it has to look like. So I did not really care for that too much. So that was actually for me one good thing that came out of COVID was we stopped having to turn in our lesson plans, and we stopped being required to use planbook.com. So at that time I was able to do whatever I wanted to. So Carrie and I are going to talk to you about our very different styles of planning, and we would love to hear from you too. How do you plan? So after you listen to our podcast, drop us a message. We would love to know what you do.
Well, I will say that I get a paper planner and I actually start in the summer. I like to fill my planner up in the summer with inspirational, maybe scriptures from friends or inspirational phrases and pick me ups. And I try to put one in each week of the planner because I know that at the beginning of the year, I'm always full of joy and energy. But as the year goes on, you get to those dark days of January and February when there's not much sunlight. Sometimes it's hard to have that joy. So having flipping a page and seeing a little quote from a friend that they left it for you in the summer, but you get to see it then, it just is a little pick me up because I always write their name, who left me that quote or that comment. And so I like having that in my planner.
You actually ask your Facebook friends, right, to
I
leave
do.
you
I always
a
ask.
quote. Do you want to tell everyone what my quote was, or should we keep that our secret?
No, I would love to tell them what your quote was. Christy, in her deep wisdom,
I
Christy
want
sent
to
me.
always, I want to provide wisdom really to the world, but to you especially.
She said, if you are having a bad day, feeling really down on yourself, ask yourself, did I poop my pants today? Because if you didn't, your day is really okay. And
Hmm.
so honestly, I could put that on every day and feel like I'm
Almost
doing
every
all
day.
right
Yeah.
almost every
Yeah.
day. Almost every day. Yep, almost every day. I could feel like I'm feeling so it was so inspirational, Christy. It was, but it
Yeah.
is,
Well, I
it is
mean,
actually, it fell as I was putting all the quotes in. Christy's came in just in time for the week of her birthday. So as we come to her birthday week, I will be opening up to this quote, and I'll have so much joy thinking about Christy for her birthday and her amazing, uplifting quote in my lesson plan book,
yes.
which is still antiquated old paper Erin Condren book on my desk.
Yeah. So, how do you, I know we could really go down a rabbit hole here talking about planning, but so you've got a unit that, maybe it's a unit that you've already done some work with. You kind of know more or less basically where you're going with it. So, how do you take your planner and transfer the unit into your planner? Like, what does that process look like for you?
That's why I really that's why I've had trouble, I think, moving to the online plans because I think my units, a lot of the units that I use are digital plans. Like I have a
Hmm.
unit and it has a lesson plan that's all digital where I could just, pull from that unit online. But when I put it into the planner, I always plan literally just a week at a time because I
Hmm.
never know, if something's going to come up or if we're going to need to go back through something or we're just
Hmm.
not going to make it as far as I thought we were going to. But when I put it into the planner, I can map out what I think that we'll get through each day. I can remind myself, don't forget to do SSR today.
Hmm.
On Tuesday and Thursday, I literally write that in. I write down the list of the songs of the week that we are doing that week, but then I also keep a list in the back, like Spanish 3 has done this list of songs, and so I don't
Hmm.
overlap them the next year. Um, but then at the end of the week, if something didn't go well or if something went really well, I also have all this extra space. Like the planner folds
Hmm.
open, so I'm only using the left side of the page. I have this whole right side of the page where I can have some kind of reflection space. So I can
Hmm.
say,
Hmm.
hey, you know, you forgot to go make the copies of this. Usually I do everything digitally, but this needs to
Hmm.
be printed out. And you totally forgot that this was something that you'd have to print out. Don't forget this next year because I do pull out the last year's planner sometimes at the beginning of a unit just to look at my notes that I left myself. So
Hmm.
that's kind of a handy reason for
Yeah.
me to have the paper
I
planner.
am with you. I mean, I don't use a paper planner, but I do love to have little notes to myself for the following year because I don't do the same exact thing every year. I mean, definitely not, but I have the same basic units that I tend to teach from year to year, and I like to know what went well and what didn't go well, and maybe I have an idea of how I'd like to do something a little bit differently in the future. And the way I plan, I don't use a paper planner, but I just use Google Docs. And I know that's probably the lowest tech of the technology, but I find it works really well for me. So I just have a folder in my Google Drive for each unit. Well, I have a folder for each level, and then inside of each level, I have a folder for each unit that I teach, and I number them so that they're in order. And then inside each of those folders, I have my main Google Doc for the unit, and that's where I put my daily plans. And my plans are kind of rough. I mean, I've been teaching for 25 years, so I don't write every little detail that I do. I
Not
know
a sub
I
plan.
no, no. Although my sub plans are fire, let me just tell you. Like any sub would be happy to sub for me because I do a good job with that. But but I am able to put my any kind of files that I'm going to need to use for that unit. Um, I usually have a separate Google Doc where I keep online resources, like if I have like GIM kits or Quizlets or whatever YouTube
Yes.
videos. I usually have just a list of all my electronic resources that I keep for that unit. And then I can make little comments. I just highlight text and make a comment, and that's what I use to remind myself what copies I might need to make, or if I have something I want to do a little bit differently the following year. And I also use Google Classroom, and so in my main planning doc, I set up my Google Classroom by week. So there's 18 weeks in a semester. So we have weeks 1 through 18. And so I label each week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 in my Google Doc. And then I know which week to reference in my Google Classroom as well. So it makes it really easy for me to go in and, if there's an assignment I need to paste into Google Classroom, it's really easy to just grab it from my plan and paste it into my Google Classroom.
That is really cool. We don't use Google Classroom. We're a Schoology school. And
Yeah.
so we have to reset up a lot of stuff every year, like all of our
Hmm.
classes and
Yeah.
the stuff goes away. But the units are, I do have the same thing. I have a folder, an online folder with all of my units and all of the documents
Hmm.
I'm going to use for that unit. And even in Schoology, I have that folder with all of the
Hmm.
documents I'm going to use for that unit. But I still have that crutch of my real planner on my desk where
Yeah.
I write down and I'm crazy because I write it all out. I do my planning on Wednesday.
Mhm.
So today I wrote out my plans for next week. And then
Mhm.
tomorrow, if there's anything that needs printed, I'll print it
Mhm.
out during my planning period tomorrow so that I can um, laminate it on Friday if it needs laminated. I just try to make sure
Yeah.
that I have my planning period time to do, okay, I'm going to need to laminate something. So I just try to make
Right.
sure I have the time to do that. And sometimes by planning on Wednesday, there'll be a monkey wrench in something, and on Friday, we don't get through what we were supposed to. And so we
Right.
don't get as far, but it's fine because if I planned on Wednesday and I printed out too much stuff, then it just rolls over to the next week. It's not like we never
Yeah.
get to it. It's just that we don't get to it as fast. But I
Yeah.
try to hold myself to that schedule so I don't feel like, oh man, it's Friday. I don't know what I'm going to do next week. And I have to be in a big hurry on the weekend. It really helps me by having that plan for planning. It
Mhm.
helps me be a better manager of my home time because I don't want to
Yeah.
be bringing all that home to do. I
Mhm.
really want to be respectful of my home time not being time to be planning and printing and cutting and laminating. Like,
Yeah. Well, and I
just
love that
trying.
you do it on a Wednesday too, because nobody wants to be planning on a Friday for the following week.
No,
And Lord knows nobody wants to be planning on a Sunday for the following
right.
week. But if you've planned on Wednesday, it still gives you enough time if you like realize that you didn't quite get through what you wanted to get through by Friday. At least what you know is what do you need to push off into the following week, or it's easier to readjust an existing plan than it is to just make up everything
I
from
always plan
scratch.
in
So,
pencil because you can
yep,
definitely scoot things around if you've planned in pencil. And
yep,
so that's never a big deal. It might entail moving a couple of boxes around
mhm,
because you never know when Jocelyn's is coming. The seniors are going to be gone on Monday morning. Like, oh, great. So all of my
yeah,
plans for Monday are now shot because the seniors aren't going to be in class. So I
right,
can't do eighth hour a lesson when first hour didn't get their lesson. Now I have to have a space killer for eighth hour.
right,
So there are things that happen that would push those plans back. So,
mhm,
by planning on Wednesday, there definitely are bumps, but totally, like on Thursdays at my school, we have an hour teachers meeting time in the morning.
mhm,
So sometimes I get, if we get out early, I might get 15 or 20 extra minutes before school on
mhm,
Thursday. So if I can squeak out a little extra planning time on Thursday, I might be able to like run down my list and say, oh, I need to print this out. So I might even get my prep time Thursday to get
mhm,
all the little, okay, these are the posters for the new unit that you were going to hang up. And so laminate all those
yeah,
today. And then Friday, I don't have anything to do on my plan period except, make a new bulletin board or something. But
right.
that's rare.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and
rare.
I think it's so smart to just set a time to do your planning too, because I know that I go down these rabbit holes, like where I get way too ambitious. I get really like lost in ADD land and get distracted. I start looking at YouTube videos and it gets crazy. But if you have a set period of time, like this is my planning time, this is the time that I have to get ready for next week, it's a game changer, because I feel like we will fill whatever amount of time we will fill it, or at least I'm that way.
Absolutely. I am too.
I'm I'm a
And it
time
doesn't
waster.
take me, if I really sit down on Wednesday and I say, I'm going to plan out what we're doing next week, the other Spanish 2 teacher and I will talk, usually on the Thursday before, we will have talked about,
Hmm.
what is our plan for the next couple of weeks. So we already kind of
Hmm.
know where we're going into our next unit. Um, so I can sit down and go, okay, I know what the next unit coming up is. So I can look at the unit plans. Like I said, we have a lot of the units that are already planned for us in these
Hmm.
digital plans, but then I have to just kind of look through what are the tweaks I want to make because you
Right.
never, you know, honestly, like an introspective teacher, you don't just pull out the same plan book year after year after
Hmm.
year and teach the same lessons over and over again. Like we
Yeah.
may use the same units, but you're always, oh, hey, here's a new resource I found, or here's a new thing I want to try with it, or,
Mm-hmm.
there's a new follow-up activity I want to play. Like, what are the
Mm-hmm.
new things that you're going to do in that unit each year?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I do
Well,
on
and to me,
Wednesdays, kind
like
of try
that's
to,
to me, that's part of what is fun about teaching. I mean, yeah, we do a lot of the same
yes,
things from year to year, but it's you every year you get to just polish up that unit and make it better,
yes,
and you get to add a new thing to it. Or maybe it's like, oh, I've been using this song, but it's getting kind of old, and I want to look for a new song to
yes.
incorporate into this. So there's always something that you can be doing to add into your plans, but it's
And you have different,
polishing.
exactly. And there's different
Mhm.
kids in the room. So where one
Mhm.
year they might be, a little quieter and more into a discussion where you sit around and talk.
Mhm.
The next year they might be more tactile and they want to,
Mhm.
be doing hands-on activities more.
Mhm.
So, just the way that you can change up the activities, okay, this group did better when we did the comprehension questions as discussion
Mhm.
questions. And this year they're going to
Right.
need to be running into the hallway to like do a
Mhm.
take one where they rip off the answer to
Mhm.
the comprehension question and bring it back in
Right.
because they need to run off their energy. So,
Yeah.
evaluating in the light of who you have in your room too.
Mhm. Yeah, and really a lot of what we do is on the fly. I mean, the discussions that we have with our students are going to lead us down different paths with different
Yes.
groups, and I I never want to waste an opportunity if if they lead me to something interesting, I don't want to not go there. Um, I want to kind of honor the fact that they are different people every single year. But yeah, like you said, they are going to be different kids with different needs. If we're doing, formative assessments on a regular basis, we're going to find out that, oh, this group needs more work with this. Maybe I need to throw a story in so that they can get some more repetitions of this vocabulary. But when we have those years to reflect back on the lessons that we've done, we're going to have some things kind of at our fingertips that we can go to, like, oh, well, I remember this group. I did this with them, and I think that would work really
Yes.
well with this group too.
I love Diane Neubauer she keeps just a chart of these are the activities that I do for follow-ups. And
Mhm.
she has them broken down. These are good reading follow-ups. These are good
Mhm.
listening follow-ups. These are good. And I've started doing kind of the same thing. These are activities that I would do to follow up a reading. And these
Mhm.
are gamified kind of activities that I would
Mhm.
do these are comprehension-based question activities, just kind of sorting things out for myself so that
Mhm.
when I get to that point of planning, I can just pull out this list and go, okay, oh yes, this is what I think I want to do next week
Mhm.
because these kids I have a very energetic class this year. And
Yeah.
so they need to burn off some energy every day.
Yeah, I can relate to that. But yeah, I think also for me, I sometimes just find myself getting into a rut. It's like, okay, how many days can we play Gimkit this year? Like, okay, maybe
Yeah,
maybe I should find a new activity to do. And so when I go back through those files, um, I can even go to different units and just be, okay, I need something that's going to be fun and active, and it's going to provide them with some more comprehensible input. And I can just kind of scan through those plans from the past and, oh, I have not done that activity since 7 months ago. I could
2005.
definitely, yes, I could definitely do that again. So for me, it is just so valuable to have those plans. And for me, as a digital planner, I can just duplicate my unit from a past year, and I can edit it to fit what I'm doing in the current year. So I like to keep, a little archive of what I've done. It's kind of fun to look back to
Yes,
sometimes. And because like you said, you have different groups of kids that different things are going to work with different people. So it is nice to be able to go back through those and look.
I agree.
So, Carrie, any final words of wisdom that you have as far as planning?
I just think that I don't think there's a right and a wrong way. If you plan on paper, if you plan online, if I feel for you. If your district is making you turn in plans, Christy feels for you too. She had to do it. I
Hmm.
don't, at my district, you had to turn them in your first year teaching in the
Hmm.
district. I've been there. This is my seventh year at this district, my 29th year teaching, but my seventh year in
Hmm.
this district. But every first year teacher, no matter if it was your first year or your first year in the district, we had to turn in plans for a whole year.
Hmm.
But then after that, they don't care anymore. I guess they figure you know how to plan after that first year. So um, I feel for you if
I
you have
will
to turn them
I
in.
will say though, we've talked about me being a digital planner. I will say I am a fan of the random collection of post-it notes on my desk. I do I do write a lot of things on post-it notes to remind myself to do different little things, and so my desk is usually quite colorful.
Mine's my desk calendar. I have
Mhm.
the big, like, giant desk calendar. Our
Mhm.
school gets like a Salem Wildcats desk calendar. And so my
Yeah.
little random notes of what I need to do are all on
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I use my planner if it's a really important meeting, like you've got to go to the insurance meeting or they say they won't pay you, then I write that in my planner where I'm sure I will
Yeah.
see it because the desk calendar is under my planner, so I don't want to miss it. But
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you, first of all, to the person who wrote to Carrie with that question, because it kind of got us talking about how we do things very similarly, but also very differently sometimes. So that was
yeah,
good. And like I said earlier, we would love to hear from you. How do you plan? Are you team paper planner or are you team digital planner? Or are you team I do what my school
a
district
little
makes me
both.
do? Yeah, we would love to hear from you. So feel free to reach out, leave us a comment, reach out by email or social media. We would love to hear from you. And we will see you on our next episode of CI Diaries.
See you
Bye, everyone.
soon.